invested part of their revenue for 20 years, 30 years, to say, how can we make this better? How can we improve the lives of people? How can we educate them? How can we help them set up in business? How can we do better by doing the work that we do? And this is the story that he started to tell. So we looked at, okay, if we look at what's going on, we have to give people context. So instead of just telling a story about this is an amazing area and this is what Andy has done, what he did is he looked at how he could tell the story in a way that made it more relevant to more people more often. So we started out by giving people context. This is what was going on in the past. And they did very rich, media-rich interviews with people who had lived there before Andy came in and started to do their work. And he could see that this was an area that struggled a great deal. So they told the story about the past, and you can see what I saw before was just the normal rudimentary farming of people going to the corners of their houses just to put plants here and there. There really wasn't much excitement, much to look forward to in their day-to-day life. So they tell this story of what it was like before. They talk about the work that they had done, where things are out right now, and how people's lives have changed since they were there 20 or 30 years ago. And then they continue to tell the story, saying, and this is where we see this area going in the future, based on what the people who live here want to have happen. Where they say they want to invest their money, and what they want to have happen from an environmental standpoint, from a business standpoint, from a tourism standpoint. This was so important to them. And this was just a part of the bigger story that Andy started to tell. They now have internal awards that they look at, projects that are done the most sustainable. They are able to tell these stories all over the world. And in fact, one thing that happened is that this story was picked up in the United States and featured in major news networks, and that bounced back to Italy and caught them a much bigger audience, because then the Italian community said, this is something that if it's true and the American press is covering it, this is something that really has a lot of credibility. We really know that this brand is telling the truth. And it gave them so much more relevancy to the people who they were trying to tell their story with and connect with, so that they could show that they weren't a brand that just cared about what it is that they did and how much money that they could make. Now for Corrado, he said, if you see something that has beauty, it's just automatic that you share it. You don't contain beauty. You don't have to ask people to share it. The beauty makes it explicit. And it's so true. As I was talking to him about this, a rainbow happened to come out. He goes, look, we're going to talk about this. When you see a rainbow, you tell people about it. When you see a double rainbow, you tell people about it. That's what he wanted to have happen with the stories that he was telling from his brand, is to have it be so rich and so beautiful that people couldn't contain it, that they would want to share it. Now, he told me yesterday that they just started to launch their TV studio internally. So this is a brand that invests heavily in the philosophy that brand is a business asset. This is something that you invest in, because this is how they're able to tell their stories and connect with so many more people than they ever had imagined before. And so what he has learned through his branding is that you have to give people some that you work for. Is what is a much bigger story that you can tell that talks about the impact that you make on people, because that's what starts to create that emotional connection. Now, the second thing I want to talk about is how you can create recipes for branding. I'm going to sit this down and need to grab a drink of water. How to create recipes for the branding. Okay, this man's name is Dan Gingers, and he just left. He was the head of digital marketing for a health insurance company called Humana. And he loved going to work every day because there was something really fascinating for him. And I know I asked how many people work in healthcare in here. Altogether, how many people work in healthcare in this room? I thought there was one in here. Okay. Healthcare of any kind. Because when we look at healthcare, what we look at is how are we taking care of our bodies? How are we taking care of those we love, whether it's our pets, whether it's our family, whatever it is. So every day when Dan went to work, he looked at Humana, and he looked at all of the things that they helped people do to take care of their health. So it could be Medicare, it could be dental vision, group insurance, the pharmacy. So this is a company that generally sold to other businesses so that their employees could be covered by health insurance. And then he looked at what was going on with the brand engagement with their own employees with health. And he said he could look around and he saw that the employees were organizing things like soccer games, volleyball games. They would they would have walking competitions. There would be all sorts of things that they would look at that they liked to do themselves that had to do with promoting their own health and wellness. So when Dan looked at this, he said, okay, maybe there's something that we could do to help our own employees take advantage of something that they already love that is true and core to who we are as a brand. And what they did is that they created this app that you can see here, Humana Vitality. And what you can do is that you can have different competitions or you can track your own health and wellness on this app. So you can have team competitions where you see who can take the most steps in a week, or how far you can run, or how many days you go without being sick. All sorts of competitions that you can do. You can see how much water you drink in a day. You could track all of these things that were so healthy. So they were able to take that philosophy that they had externally about health and apply it to their own internal audience. Now, something very interesting started to happen when they did that. When they started to look at this dashboard inside, is that they saw that there was this certain group, this percentage of employees of the population who really became incredibly strong advocates for health. They learned so much more about health and how to take care of themselves and how to work out and how to maintain their fitness and how to eat than they ever imagined. It wasn't just about showing up and doing their job every day. It was about working for a company that cared about their own health and wellness. Now, what Dan saw when they started to track some of these things internally, and they started to blog about things that were healthy habits for employees, is that employees took that to heart, and they started to share it with their own people, with their own communities, because what we see is that a single employee has a quote from Muhammad Ali. If you come across anyone looking for a meal and or a toy from a child, please contact us. So he was sharing his own experience for how he was volunteering during the holiday time, and here another organization picked it up and shared it. So it again began to expand that story that Humana was trying to tell itself externally. Here's somebody else who went out for a group run, and the mayor joined them. So he tweeted that, and you can see other people retweeted it, some people liked it. So we start to see that employees are the people who can help you tell your story in a way that is true and authentic and genuine to your brand. Now for Dan, he said, it starts that you have to have employees who really love the brand and who want to talk about the brand. And then you have to have really good content. So that was the double, the dynamic duo, I guess you would call it, that Dan really understood, is that they had employees who were really passionate about what it is that Humana did. And that wasn't just about selling insurance, it was about creating healthier lives. And then they created content and put it in the hands of employees if they wanted to share internal content that they knew was approved, or if they wanted to talk about their own healthy life experiences. This is how they brought the true Humana brand to life. And as he says here, he said, when you find really great content, people want to share it. And then when you do that, it's more interesting to their social network. So this was something that Dan really understood, is that you have to let the most trusted people tell your story. And that's the employees. Because employees will always tell you what's going on behind the closet doors or what's under the hood, The secrets always come out through your employees. But if you have a bigger employee base that is talking in just magnificent ways about your brand, this is how you can do it. You can activate your brand like this. You can give them recipes to follow about how they talk about your brand. Now, the third thing that I want you to think about is that what we tend to do when we look at our brand is that we look at what everybody else in the marketplace is doing. And we want to be different from them, but not too different. We want to stand out, but we don't want to stand out too much. because we're afraid if we become too different, then people are going to think we're crazy or risky or something. But that was an idea that this brand manager for Treasury Wine Estates, his name is Tim Irwin, that he really took to heart. So Tim had worked in his job for a number of years, and then it was one year it came about where they had an extra run of wine that wasn't of the quality of their normal lines of wine that they already had. And so he's looking at this situation, and he understood something about how people perceive wineries and people who buy wine. And it's because they think of them like they do this gentleman, like they're a little stuck up, you know, they're a little better than everybody else, you know, they like to talk about the aftertaste or the forward taste or, you know, how it is that the wine actually tastes. You can tell how sophisticated of a wine drinker I am. And so he said, okay, if that's what all of these wineries and the branding for these wineries is about how magnificent their wine is, what do we want to do that's different? So when he saw this opportunity to, what they needed to do with it was 10,000 cases of wine that didn't meet their normal standards of quality. And he said, okay, well, let's look at this, and how would a typical brand handle that? And maybe they would just get rid of it, or maybe they would mix it in with a higher quality of wine, you know. What would they actually do? And so for Tim, he looked at their whole brand history. And he said, we are an Australian winery. And if you look at the history of Australia, the whole country was made up of people that another country just wanted to get rid of. And so they sent them on. And he said, if we look at that idea, we have wine that typically other wineries would want to get rid of. That we're from a country that was created by people who wanted to get rid of something. So what if we take that idea and instead of hiding behind it, what if we really, really celebrate this idea? So that's how they came up with the name 19 Crimes. So 19 Crimes, when people were exported, sent off to Australia, to the penal colony, it was because they had been found guilty of one of these 19 crimes. So they list what all of these 19 crimes were. Now, he talks about this in the brand story. It says 19 crimes turned criminals into colonists. Upon conviction, British rogues guilty of at least one of the 19 crimes were sentenced to life to live in Australia rather than death. This punishment by transportation began in 1783, and many of these lawless died at sea. For the rough-hewn prisoners who made it to shore, a new world awaited. As pioneers in a frontier penal colony, they forged a new country and new lives, brick by brick. This wine celebrates the rules that they broke and the culture that they built. Now that right there is an amazing brand story, but he didn't stop just there. What they did is that they created an app that you can download, and when you download it and you hold it up to the label of a wine bottle, the pictures of one of these 19 criminals that's on the label comes to life. And this is what it looks like. Every single bottle has its own story. And every person on that label tells their own part of that story. They've researched these criminals. These are real people. So they tell the story, I can do with my phone. Watch this. And they hold their phone up to the bottle of wine. The bottle of wine tells this picture, and everybody goes, that's so cool. Where can I go buy that bottle of wine? And then they go home that night, and then the next day when the liquor store opens, they all go to the liquor store because they all want to buy the bottle of wine so that they can invite their friends over, and they can lay the wine up on the counter, and then they can say, hey, come over here, and look at what happens. And then they put their phone in front, and they get to tell the story. So they've been able to create this frenzy around it. It's fun. Even if you've seen them all before, to be able to show it off is an amazing part of the story that they created. Now, what Tim understood is that they start with the brand essence, that this truth is stranger than fiction. That if they tried to make up the stories about people, to make up the stories of people who've gone to a penal colony, it could never be as strange as what these people's actual story is like. He said if it's traditional wine thinking, then we think differently. We have a true appreciation of the story that's unique and interesting. Now, this has been the foundation of what they're doing, and what they're doing is flipping the formula what everybody else is using. And that's why they're experiencing just such a tremendous amount of growth. They've even opened up an innovation center to start to look at how can we create a better experience around wine. How do we take what we're doing with augmented reality, virtual reality, and make it a bigger experience around the wine that we sell? So that's the next thing that I want you to think about is how can you become that kind of contrarian for whatever industry that you're in? And then I want you to think, finally, how you can really expand the experience of your brand. And I know there's a couple of people in here from travel or hospitality, and this is one of my favorite stories ever of travel and hospitality. So this sweet man is Martin Wise, and he is the mayor of a little teeny tiny town in Switzerland called Obermünchen. And for him, he understood that one of the things people absolutely love about Switzerland is these beautiful, beautiful cities up in the mountains so they can go and stay, and then they can go and hike, or they can ski, or whatever they want to do depending on the time of year that they're there. And they saw that people would come in great numbers to come to these towns, that there was a thriving tourism industry. However, for Obermünchen, population 79 people, they weren't getting their piece of that, and they said, okay, there has to be something that we can do. There has to be something that we can do to put us on the map that helps us compete against all these other towns that people know and are so famous. So what did Martin do? He said, if we want people to know about our city of 79 people, then we want to take the city to them. We can't count on people coming here because they don't know anything about us. And people only do pay business with companies they know, they like, and they trust. He said, let's help get people to know us. So they started a Facebook campaign. And what they did is that they started to tell stories of their little town and what life was like in Obermünchen. But then what they did was something that was genius. Because what he did is that he said, okay, we have our Facebook page, but what we want to do is that we want people to really feel like they are a part of our town. So they posted, they said, for everybody who likes our page, we will print out your picture, and we're going to put your picture on this board in the middle of town so that all 79 residents in Obermünchen will know who you are. Because they said, we are a city who cares about getting to know people. And if people are going to like us on a social media platform, we want our entire town to feel like we know them. Because then we can start to do things that let them know us. So it sounds really quaint. And, they probably would get 8-10 likes. No, this is what the board started to look like. So they covered that first board, and then they covered another one. And now they're covering sides of buildings all the way through town. They didn't just hit 100 likes. They hit many thousands of likes. And in fact, one of the last statistics, 45,000 people liked the Obermünchen Facebook page. They had more people who liked the page than actually live there. So now people are so excited. Now they discovered it because they can go to this town and they can find their very own picture someplace on these walls and in these buildings so that they can see that they are somebody who's a part of this town. So they created this. Now, what they did is that they went one step further and they created the Museum of Friendship in Obermünchen. So there's just that much more interest about why people want to go and learn about Obermünchen. And so what Martin said is that we are about developing these personal relationships with a guest. And it's not a matter of this big, ginormous volume of people, but it's about each individual person who says that they like us. And isn't that what building a brand is about, is building relationships? And that's what Martin was so genius about. That's what he said, if this is what matters to us in person, why can't we have the same thing matter over social media? Why can't we have that same kind of relationship? So this is what I want you to think about, is how can you make it easy for people to champion your brand, whether they've ever been there or not? Because you look at what little Obermünchen has been able to accomplish, and it is phenomenal. So when we look at brands and we look at how we expect brands to behave, and how we tend to try and get people's attention by interrupting them, One of the things that we have to look at is that we go back to this idea, are we interrupting them because we want to get our products in front of them? Because we want to say, here, I have this, buy what I have? Or are we trying to do something that actually captures that attention, that has more relevancy to more people more often? Because in today's kind of digital world, what we have is that it's an attention span issue, and it's a priority issue. And people don't want to spend 30 seconds with an interruption from a brand where you're talking about your product that you want to sell that doesn't have anything to do with me. But people absolutely will spend 30 minutes with a great experience if that's what your brand delivers. So that's what I want you to think about. Every day when you sit down and you look at your branding, are you creating a 30-second interruption, or are you doing something to create an amazing 30-minute experience for people that makes them want to engage with you more? Because that's what all of these people understood. That's what marketing